Whew. Hello class, my name is Tyler Mullen and I will be your guest speaker today. Now, to my knowledge, all of you are learning about the basics of Flash game programming right now, and that is awesome. And, and I'm also aware that today you are learning about how to draw using Flash. And if you want to really understand how computer art works, you have to be able to understand how the hardware behind that works. That it can go faster than any human artist could possibly go. That it takes images and adjusts them as many as 60 times in a second. How does the computer do this? Well, that would be the graphics card. Now, all of you know what the graphics card is, but how many of you know how it actually works? Okay. Well, the first thing it has to do is it has to take the electricity from the digital electricity from the computer, from the power outlet, I mean, and it has to convert it into analog electricity that the computer can use and send to the monitor. Afterwards, the processor sends information on what the images are supposed to look like. All those ones and zeros, which are formed into these things called bitmaps, which plan out the pixels, which are the smallest possible unit that is used for computer images. And so it sends that to the graphic card using what's called the PCIe connector, which, trust me, I'll go into more detail about that later. So there are basically the two really big components of the video card that you have to know are the GPU, or the graphical processing unit, which is what's used to make the calculations involved in these images using all those ones and zeros. It sort of plots out the colors of the pixels, the dimensions of the images, and it sort of forms like 3D art in computers is based on triangles, which are used to form the polygons that a lot of you are familiar with. And so that's one thing the GPU does. It sort of takes all these images, it takes the initial images and then the adjustments to them, and then there's several other, that's this main function, and there are several other processes involved in there. One of them is, like there's the adjustment to images, which I talked about earlier, which is called rasterization. And then there's another one where it smooths out the images, of 3D objects, which is called anti-aliasing. Now, as you can imagine, this takes a lot of time and to do, even with as fast as it goes, and a lot of power, so there's a heat sink on top of it to make sure it doesn't get overworked. Now, after it has those adjustments, it is saved into the video RAM. I know all of you know what RAM is, and it saves all. Now, as you can imagine, it has to make calculations. Because of all the work it has to do, it has to make calculations and account for these adjustments at the same time. So it does this thing what's called dual porting, allowing it to do that. The RAM is often called the frame buffer because it has all these adjustments, and then it sort of saves it as a procedure to do that. There are two major things that determine the quality of the video RAM, and that would first there's the how much RAM is in there, and that affects how many images it can save. And then there's the type of RAM, which determines how long it can shoot out those processes. Then, like I said, I'm going to get back to the PCIe card. Two major functions there. First of all, connects the motherboard and the graphics card together, and actually makes increases the clock speed and power of both of those. In addition to that, and it sort of functions as a gateway, both for sending the zeros and ones to the zeros and ones from the GPU to the monitor, and the initial instructions for to the graphics card in the first place. And then there's another connector on there which is sort of sets the command for the monitor. There's different ones for the CRT and LCD monitors. So in a sentence, it takes all the information the processor wants, sends it over to the GPU, which takes the zeros and ones and forms them into pixels to make images, and then it sends it to the RAM so that way it can save the commands while processing them, and then the PCIe connector serves as a gateway point between the two. Hope you've enjoyed my presentation. Thank you. Enjoy your night. Enjoy your